Hi, I'm Sarah Cowgill, along with Andrew Moran, Dave Patterson, Graham Noble, and John Clark. And this is The Conservative Five, an online TV production of Liberty Nation News. On today's episode, Aftershock, fake news gets collective comeuppance, and Trump terrorizes the fourth estate. Look up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane. Well, it's a drone, but nothing we know about the drone. And we'll discuss in Droning On and On. Make America Healthy Again goes full throttle with RFK Jr. on a mission. Finally, it's another quick fix to flex the brain and Just for Fun, Volume 62, with a very special guest. All this and more in this edition of The Conservative Five. Trump is on a roll, shivering the timbers of the establishment media in retaliation for what he calls fake news and probably a lot of other grievances he may have. There are rumors of a White House press corps shakeup. He's already settled a lawsuit with George Stephanopoulos and ABC, and he's now rattling the gates at the Des Moines Register for releasing the most ridiculous and, well, desperate poll the day before the election. I mean, Iowa going for Harris by 9 points was the, stupidest thing Americans heard before November 6th. Break down the top 5 Trump points he has over the media, Graham. You've been following this a lot closer than I have.
Top 5, Sarah. Perhaps it's more like top 15 or 20, I don't know, or maybe 30 by now. But, here's the thing, of course, I think we all believe in having a free press, although I think the idea that today's press is free is kind of a joke because it's mostly, corporate owned. And I believe that Elon Musk is right when he basically says that the people are the press now. So the social media platforms have spelled the death knell for traditional media. But in terms of Trump, versus the media, well, anyone can express an opinion. Any journalist, reporter, blogger, whatever, what have you, can express an opinion about anyone, about a public figure, and you can say quite kind of mean or even nasty things about a person, and those statements you make are absolutely covered by the First Amendment, whether you're a journalist or not. But there's a difference between opinion and then presenting something as fact that it's simply not true, and the fact that you are, or the fake fact, if you like, that you're presenting is damaging to that person, damaging to their reputation, their career, whatever. And the recent case with ABC, George Stephanopoulos actually did say on more than one occasion on the air that Trump had been found liable for rape. Now, obviously, he's referring to the civil suit that E. Jean Carroll brought against Donald Trump. And she did actually accuse him of rape. The Justice Department investigated this and did not bring any charges. And then, of course, it ended up in a civil case, which, of course, is considerable differences between a civil case and a criminal case. But the jury in the civil case found that Trump was not liable for rape, but he was liable for sexual assault and defamation. And I guess Trump himself would probably dispute both of those because I really don't think there was a great deal of solid evidence against him for either one of those. But anyway, the thing is, the case is done. It's over and done with. Trump was found liable, but he was not found liable for rape. And this is what Stephanopoulos claimed. And that is clearly slander. It's clearly maliciously intended because Stephanopoulos obviously knew the outcome of that trial. And so this is the points that Trump has got against the media. It's basically, it's not just the kind of slander and defamation against him and the lies that the media have told about him, and not just said, well, in my opinion, Trump is this or Trump has done that or whatever. It's actual presenting these things as fact. And then, of course, there's the election interference part of it, because if the national media lies to people and people believe those lies, then they may cast a vote based on, what they heard. And so that is falsely kind of guiding someone to vote for or against a particular candidate based on something that's not true. And then, of course, there's the incitement to violence, which we know is happening now. We've had various shootings, the latest one just the other day at a Christian school in, I believe, Wisconsin, where the shooter was, they found the manifesto, if you like. The shooter was really motivated by this kind of complaining about the patriarchy and men, and and how women are so downtrodden by people. And obviously her target wasn't it wasn't a politician, but she did actually say in a manifesto that she wanted to target politicians as well. So you got that, you got the dishonesty, the election interference, the possible incitement to violence, as Trump, being a survivor of 2 assassination attempts, is well aware. And I think you got a good case all in all for, okay, we need a free press, but we also need an honest press. And to me, I believe that the media should be held accountable, if necessary, criminally, for deliberately misleading people.
Honestly, I think that's kind of what might be going on. I know I'm not going to go out on a limb and say Joe Scarborough and his gal pal Micah. It seems like they're backing away. They went down to talk to Trump at Mar-a-Lago, and I would love to have been a fly on the wall there, because there's got to be something going on. Chris Cuomo has defended Trump on a few things here and there, and John Fetterman, and there's some things going on that, I don't know, John Clark, are they backing away, or are they just trying to live through the next 4 years?
Well, maybe both. I mean, their legitimacy as journalists is now in grave question, given their poor prediction of the election, but also some of the things that they said. I'm not sure I agree with Graham that this is traditional journalism. Traditional journalism, I'm a Walter Cronkite guy. It seemed like the closer we got to election time, the more extreme some of the vitriol and propaganda was. It's not journalism. And so what I find intriguing right now is all the hand wringing. And yes, Joe and company were down there, I think, before all the votes were counted at Mar-a-Lago, trying to get in the good books. But is that just opportunism? Some in the liberal media criticized them. But what happened to Stephanopoulos? I believe he had to pay $1 million out of his own pocket for the legal fees. Was actually just an affirmation of the rule of law that's always existed in America. I see media outlets now saying, oh, that was terrible. It's threatening New York Times versus Sullivan, and they're taking away our free speech rights. Nope. Under the Biden administration, the mainstream media largely criticized and attacked Donald Trump with all kinds of lies, whether you like him or not, while they didn't have to be held accountable to the Bidens because they never said anything they ran cover for them. And so a good analogy, I think, for Americans to look at here, I'll share this as a lawyer, is O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson was not convicted of the crime of murder, but he was then found civilly liable, which is a lower standard. Murder or rape in the Trump case requires proof beyond a reasonable doubt. So when Stephanopoulos was using the term rape, he was using a criminal conviction. As far as Graham says, Trump was never even charged with a crime. That level of evidence was never procured. That's a crime versus a civil matter. I don't remember the media walking around saying O.J. Simpson was guilty of murder all the time. And had they done so, they would have opened themselves up to a very legitimate case of defamation or libel, because guess what? In a defamation case, truth is a defense. So the burden would be on Stephanopoulos to prove, with a preponderance of the evidence, not beyond a reasonable doubt, that Donald Trump had been convicted beyond a reasonable doubt of rape. The term has very specific meaning. It's a criminal meaning. This is defamation. So yes, the media has to be careful now, because now they're going to be held to the rule of law. Just like the FBI, they're saying, he's going to have retaliation. No, they might actually just apply the rule of law. There's been an abandonment of the rule of law and journalistic ethics. They're paying a huge price by losing viewership. So in answer to your question, for 4 years, I don't think they have to be afraid of going to jail or being even sued if they abide by the law. Maybe others have watched Stephanopoulos' education, but are they even going to be viable as journalists? Do they even have credibility anymore when they do things like this? So I think it's a seismic shift, and we'll see what happens. But I don't really see this as Donald Trump retaliating against anybody. He's simply bringing the rule of law back into an area where it's been sadly missing. People are going to have to be responsible for what they say when they lie about other people now. Imagine that.
Andrew, should we see the writing on the wall? I mean, did we see the writing on the wall and we were just cautiously optimistic that perhaps there would be a return to the rule of law? Or I don't know here.
If it may just piggyback on what Graham and John were saying, I would say just let the media melt down by itself. You don't need to apply the rule of law. You don't need to have, cases. You just know, for a fact that these people are digging a hole for themselves and they're losing trust among the American people. Now, when it comes to what they're writing on the wall, I mean, when it comes to all these national newspapers that didn't endorse either candidate, I think that was pretty telling. Because yes, the press absolutely dislikes Trump, but when you have the smartest men and women in the fourth estate not endorsing the Vice President Kamala Harris, that pretty much proves the point that like the data we've digested since Election Day, Kamala Harris is probably the worst presidential candidate in modern history, bar none. The numbers prove that. But my question is, out of all of this, will the current mainstream media perform any honest autopsy of the campaign? Probably not. They're probably just move on and then dig their heels in attacking the incoming president. You look at the page of LibertyNation.com. There's already a new hoax being dropped by the media saying that Trump is giving up on tackling grocery prices. But when he dive deeper into his quote, he's saying, "Yeah, it's hard, but I think it's going to be resolved." So I think the mainstream media knew that it was not a good idea hitching their wagon to Kamala Harris, but now they're just going to return to what it was from 2017 to 2021 and just unmercilessly going after the President-elect Trump.
I think you got a point there. They're still unhappy, but I want to know. I mean, really, is this a collective good use of this administration's time and effort? I mean, is spanking the media the way for him to get support, or is it just fun for the haters of the past administration, Dave?
Sarah, you're making a wild assumption here that the media would even know they're being spanked. I'm not sure that the Trump administration cares one way or the other, frankly. Whether the media provides support is neither here nor there for them. They're about their business, as it seems so far. And when dealing with a hostile press, experience tells us that the worst insult that you can give as an administration is to ignore them. And when the media is not even willing to tell the truth or attempt to be objective, make them irrelevant. And I think that in many cases, that's what the Trump administration is doing. The media exists on the notion that what they say moves the views of the American people. And the idea that the Americans sit on the edge of their chairs hanging on every word out of the mouths of pundits, well, we know now that that's simply not true. And, for example, in the recent pop-up unannounced press conference that President-elect Trump did, a reporter showing all of his wisdom said, would Trump consider a preemptive strike on Iran? And, Donald Trump treated that question with the contempt it deserved and explained why. And as if the reporter were a child, and it was a childish question. The Trump administration, I think, has a compelling presence that treats the press as irrelevant. And if they do that consistently, it will drive the chattering class pretty crazy, I think. And they might even start reporting factually.
If I may say something, that is the best thing Trump can do. Trump should just avoid these pre-recorded interviews and these sit-down interviews and just hold a live press conference like he did the other day, which was a nearly 90-minute press conference he had. Just do that, and that's how you could just destroy the mainstream media when you have reporters asking those types of questions.
Well, even actually an MSNBC personality, Stephanie Rule, I believe her name is. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her last name correctly, but she actually called Trump and asked him to come on MSNBC for an interview, and he just said no. And, good for him that he did, because obviously it was just going to be, sorry, but there's no way MSNBC is going to give Trump a fair shake if he goes on air on that network. So I think he was right to say no. It's interesting that even MSNBC is reaching out to him, considering that they've spent the last few years trying to convince the American public that he is literally Hitler. So
Well, I don't think this is over for the media by far. There will likely be more troubled waters for the Fourth Estate. Dead ahead. Buckle up. Thanks, panel. Mystery drones have dominated conversations of late, but it's not the first time. When unidentified flying objects started popping up over the U.S. military installations a year ago, there wasn't much made of it. The U.S. government acknowledged sightings and reported them flying over U.S. nuclear research facilities, with little concern expressed by the national security apparatus. But hovering over New Jersey seems a tad bit more interesting. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission's early December report on lost radioactive materials sparked a possible connection to those mysterious drones over the Garden State. Now that theory has gone up and away. So what do we know, Dave?
Well, the U.S. government, DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, and the Pentagon, they're trying to always dance around this, and they say, well, most of these are explainable. Okay, well, how about the others, right? Several aspects of the story actually don't meet the smell test. There have been about 5,000 drone sightings, we're told, and about 100 of those are unidentified. Okay, so what are you doing about identifying them? Defense Department briefer explained that on any given day, 8,500 drones are flying around. Some are recreational, some commercial, some law enforcement, they point out. However, the U.S. military are not flying the drones. They're very quick to say that. Okay, so law enforcement in New Jersey are the ones asking what the sightings are. So it's not them. Recently, as you pointed out, some radioactive material went missing in where? New Jersey. No one knows where it is or who took it. One theory that someone is using drones with sensors to find the trace radiation emitted is getting some traction. It doesn't take much to connect the dots. Nuclear material goes missing. Drones appear in the skies over the state where the radioactive matter was lost. And a national research laboratory has been working on using drones to detect radiation emissions for at least a year. Such a capability would be very valuable, I would think, for the Nuclear Emergency Response Team, or NEST, that's part of the Department of Energy, Sarah, whose job it is to detect even the smallest amount of illicit stockpile of nuclear materials. Testing that capability with a real-world missing sample of atomic material would, advance U.S. technological research, I would think. It makes sense. But conspiracy theory? Maybe. Maybe not.
Andrew, I kind of know you want to jump in on this one a little bit, just because we spoke earlier, and it's kind of, I don't know, it's back and forth, and I don't like the whole, well, here's what's going on now. No, it's not going on. Just figure it out.
Well, I'm thinking more perhaps Orson Welles and his famous War of the Worlds radio drama from the 1938, maybe that case. But, I don't want the Men in Black to visit me, so I'm just going to be careful with my words here and just report on what the media is reporting. So ABC reported recently that the shipping container that Mayor of Belleville, New Jersey cited had to do with radiation source for a cancer center's CAT scan machines. That's ABC. Another thing, Mayorkas, he said that the FAA changed its rules last year so that drones could fly at night. So those are two stories being reported. Now, as for your broader question, if a material like this is stolen, it leads to an assortment of questions. Again, Men in Black, these are just questions. Mainly, why would someone want to steal this? And two, how often does this type of material go missing? So that's the state of it. I'm gonna back off. If it's aliens, nothing we can do about it. It's over. It's done. If it's just government incompetence, well, that's par for the course. If it's just drama, then that's also par for the course, and political circus.
But Graham, what's Trump been has he has to have weighed in on this. It's his new, he's walking in a little over a month. What has he said about drones?
Well, I believe he's said that we're gonna set up a new system of defense against possibly hostile drones, and it will be probably the greatest defense system in history. No, he didn't really say that, but he will sooner or later. But no, he wants some explanations. He wants the administration to kind of level with people about what these drones are, where they're coming from, or at least where they're suspected of coming from, or shoot them down. I actually love the idea, only in theory. I love the idea of civilians going out there and taking pot shots of these things and bringing them down. But the potential collateral damage could be very dangerous. So I'm not seriously suggesting that. I just think it's a fun idea. And I don't even want to see, kind of the US Air Force going in there and shooting these drones out of the sky, because that will be just as dangerous for people on the ground. I can only assume, as little confidence I have in anything the Biden administration does, I can only assume that because they are being very low key about this and pretty much telling the public, look, just don't worry about it. I can only assume that means that these drones are not coming from any kind of hostile power. They're not coming from any Iranian mothership off of the coast. And I believe that this is probably some kind of federal government sanctioned operation to test something or to perhaps find something or whatever. I can only assume that the people, kind of in the halls of power actually do know what these things are. I'm intrigued by the reports that say that some of these things are almost the size of an SUV. I mean, that's not some Joe Schmo, flying his drone for fun, because, a decent drone, even the size of the wheel of an SUV, costs, multiple $100s. So a drone the size of an SUV, God knows how much that costs. So, that tells me personally is that whatever the reason for these drones being there, someone in the government, those drones belong to some government department, and somebody knows what they're doing there.
Well, then why don't they just tell us? They're not going to harm us. Why don't they, I mean, come on. What?
Well, here's a good point.
This administration drives me a little bit batty sometimes.
It's an interesting question, Sarah, because the obvious answer to the question, well, why not just tell people? Because I'm always tempted when the government does anything in secrecy, I'm always tempted to be the first to say, well, why not just level with people? Why not just tell them what you're doing? And of course, sometimes for national security reasons, you genuinely can't. In this case, I would imagine someone in the administration would turn around and say, well, if we told people what these drones are really up there searching for, that would cause panic. But swarms of SUV-sized drones above your head is not going to cause panic.
Yeah, I mean, come on. That's the Clar, how can the military address this? Can they just supersede and, fly up there and take a good look at them and go on? I don't. This is not making any amount of sense to me, and it doesn't make any amount of sense to anybody that I've spoken to. And it's like that stupid weather balloon. And, don't tell us some fairy tale.
Well, it is a mystery, and I'll solve it for you here as we all try to speculate on what is going on. And I think that's the sociological, aspect of this that's interesting. It's creating, and I think it is a kind of a war of the worlds context. People have anxiety of the unknown. And I found it interesting to hear Graham speculate on, what they could be. But I think that Liberty Nation deserves an exclusive. They are my drones. I'm flying them here from Vermont. I've been collecting data and information. I don't know why they haven't followed me back here yet to figure it out. But actually, seriously, there's an interesting...
Clar, you want to get us in trouble? What are you
So then on my drones, I will shoot them. The bigger they are, the easier they are to hit. But I can't say that, I guess. If you're flying over my house, there's an interesting legal question about whether you're invading my privacy or whether you're watching my daughter in the shower. And I might err on the side of asking forgiveness than permission. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about what they are and whether the government actually knows and is not telling us, or maybe the government doesn't know. Both are kind of anxiety provoking. Now, we're in a context here. Let's think about something. If we study this, this has been actually going on since October. It's happening at military bases in Germany, 3 different military bases in the UK. It's not just New Jersey, it's also Virginia and Ohio, I think the other state was. Well, that sure looks a little different. And then the Pentagon and
It's not in China, Russia, or Iran.
well, again,
There's no drones there.
well, they won't let me fly my drones there. But I'm joking. So look at the context now. So we have a society that's increasingly alarmed over the potential for AI, algorithms, and other things to use technology against us. Everybody's holding their breath to see what's going to happen between now and the installation of a new presidential leader. The current president, some suspect of having ties to foreign enemies who he might allow to look around, like it seemed he did with the balloon you mentioned. So when you take those various things together and then the government can't tell you what the problem is, yeah, it's anxiety provoking. And when it's specifically concerned over a period of months with military installations, I mean, I think you have to kind of be daft not to say, well, what is this? And then when the Pentagon tells you, well, we can't rule out that some of this could be malign intent, but we can't find any evidence of any nefarious problems. And Joe Biden has assured us, and the FAA and the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security issued a joint statement. Well, but they all issued a joint statement, so maybe thrustably together, if all of the agencies together. And so, yeah, well, I think it does. Kind of like with the media, you start to break down trust, you break down the rule of law, and then you wonder why it doesn't work anymore. But so in the end, from what I could study, they're part of that phobia or anxiety may be why there are a lot of reports that are coming in that are apparently stars or planes or, so it's probably a whole collection of things. And yes, the military is telling us they're sorting out what's domestic from foreign, what's, that they can do that, what is a commercial drone. And I think part of the education of this is that these things are not for us in Vermont, but apparently a lot of parts of the country, there are thousands of them. They are constantly over our military installations. This isn't novel. And so hopefully we will see some kind of a veil lifted and get an answer to these questions. But it seems to be almost that the anxiety is sort of feeding back into the confusion and making it harder for the agencies to figure out what's actually going on. I just can't. Maybe it is UFOs, I think you mentioned.
So, Sarah, basically the American people are left with 2 things. Either the government is lying to you, and that's not it.
Well, that never happened. So, yeah, we give it out for stuff.
That's, that when you trot out Alejandro Mayorkas to tell the truth, that kind of substantiates the first condition, or they are so incompetent as to not know what to do. I tend to go with the second. When you have a Secretary of Defense who doesn't know he's supposed to tell the president when he's in the hospital for 5 days, you begin to question whether or not these are the brightest bulbs on the tree.
All right. Well, I'm going to have to cut you short. We're way over. And this discussion should have been a whole entire show. It really should have. We could have rolled that. But, so everyone's talking drones. Well, except the folks that should be. Thanks, panel. And thanks for watching us and keeping an eye out on the skies. RFK Jr. is America's darling right now. He is physically fit, smart as a whip, and on a mission to make America healthy again. And I think it's about time this country prioritizes healthy foods over toxic poison that has been allowed to flourish thanks in part to big tobacco and our own government. But other people are spooked at the fervor and passion Kennedy brings to the Trump administration. John Clark, we've had a million conversations about this. Both of us are rural livers, and we do want to go back to a healthy lifestyle. This panel has had a lot of conversations as well, kind of offline. But to revamp the food system, that takes an aggressive leader, which I'd give Kennedy that, but it also entails a lot of moving parts.
Well, it does, and yes, I do have a rural liver. Or you said we're a rural liver. Yeah, and so there are some interesting.
You should have said lifestyle.
Well. So you mentioned people being anxious about RFK's position on certain medical interventions, let us say, or vaccine hesitancy, and yet that's a very different subject from food health. And what I found interesting as a person who's, I guess you'd call me a foodie, or a person who's certainly trying to, along with him, and I don't think it matters what party one's in, alert people more to what's in their food and how to eat healthfully to prevent disease and other illnesses. And so some people who really can't stand RFK over his vaccine positions actually say, well, I hate the guy, but he's right about glyphosate, and he's right about the toxins in the food, and he's right about large corporations dominating industrial agriculture. So that in itself is already an interesting sort of informational dichotomy. But think about what RFK standing up on Maha next to Donald Trump and MAGA represents. It represents a melding of perhaps libertarian interests and walkaways. I mean, he's literally a walkaway. He ran as a Democrat. The libertarians who he went and visited them for their convention, they love him. They want one of theirs in there. So he's kind of got that on his coattails. But he also stood up for a new message, MAHA, Make America Healthy Again, which is an environmental policy which conservatives desperately need. So it continues to be a thread of this administration. And you're right, there are moving parts. HHS may be vaccine oversight, but it's also FDA, EPA. It's about glyphosate, atrazine, phthalates, and PFAs, whether they're regulated when they go into our food supplies. And then, oh my, it's the USDA. So if you don't have the moving part of the USDA and that aspect of food supply, which has nothing to do, by the way, with vaccines or those things that seem to be the hot button issues for Kennedy, but that's also in a battle right now. We're still watching this battle unfold with cabinet picks. But so I think that it's a very interesting and fascinating political development to see Americans push towards unifying in nonpartisan ways over making their children's food healthier. And by the way, there are two other aspects of MAHA I would point out. One is that it's shifting the discussion away from the focus on net zero and carbon dioxide to forever chemicals that accumulate in our children's bodies, thousands of them. And in another fashion, it's shifting the entire perspective of the Republican Party and what they represent. And in the process, it's highlighting the problems with renewable energy that many of the chemicals being generated with solar panels and EV cars, as we've been writing about here at Liberty Nation for a while, actually have environmental consequences. They're called ecotoxins. So MAHA is shifting the entire thing. And it's also a very different food movement from the food movement, let's say, of the 1920s and 30s, where you had a certain movement in Nearings and others in Vermont and elsewhere. And then in the 70s, driven by economics and the oil crisis, there was a back to the land movement. Well, that was economic. And this one's health driven. We've had a lot of changes in our food system since the 70s. And here are the Republicans and Kennedy leading on an issue that the Democrats have just missed because they only have one issue. And they've had Vilsack in there twice now, who's a friend of Big Ag. So this is a seismic shift politically and socially, and it's here to stay. And I think it's very important for our nation, and it has huge bipartisan potential on the food issue, maybe not so much on the vaccine issue.
Okay, so then we got the politics figured out on that. But Andrew, what does America want? Don't they want to just go through the McDonald's line and get something? Burger King?
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, it reminds me of that documentary that came out, Super Size Me. And everyone, when people watched that picture, I think I was 20 years old. I was in junior high when it came out. Everyone said, oh, I'm not going to eat Big Macs anymore. That's terrible. And then within a week, they go back to eating Big Macs. So yes, in theory, people think this is a wonderful idea, but whether it's going to be reality remains to be seen. But I will give credit to conservatives, though. They're really taking the lead on this issue. Because throughout my whole life, when it comes to healthy food eating, it was always those hippies who went to Whole Foods and spent $20, buying asparagus water. My concern, however, I mean, I agree with John. 100%. If you watched Swamponomics a couple of months ago, we had a great discussion on it, and I'm all for using avocado oil and abandoning seed oil and not eating this garbage that our children consume regularly. But here's my question, though. Maybe John can answer this one. We have a lot of food. The United States has a lot of food insecurity. The whole world has a lot of food insecurity. There was a study by the USDA that said in 2023, 15% of U.S. households, about 20 million households, were at some point food insecure. Now, when you try to eat healthy, it's very expensive to do so. I remember you told me in our conversation that people should be spending more on their foods, but the average person can't spend $10 on free range organic eggs, or they can't spend, whatever it is, though that RFK imports Italian flour. The average person cannot do that. So how would you separate the healthy food eating with the basic economics of cost?
Very quickly, because I don't want to eat into others' time, but but you did it. You set me up to do it. We can do it. The single biggest thing that this country could do, that RFK is on top of, and hopefully Donald Trump will be as well, is convert some of the subsidies to large industrial food away towards healthier products. How about if SNAP benefits were linked to not ultra-processed foods, but healthier foods? We are literally subsidizing hydrogenated fats and high fructose corn syrup and sugar with billions and billions of dollars that could be shifted into preventive improvements to our health, and particularly sourcing more local and healthy foods for schools, for SNAP program benefits. There's a lot that could be done, including cleaning up huge amounts of waste and spending. The USDA, about 80% of its budget is the SNAP program. And so,
this is a conservative 2. That's a conservative 5.
Well, that was the question. That was the quick answer. Sorry.
Oh, it's not quick. Anyway.
Right.
Oh, Dave.
It's a difficult question. It's nice.
Jeez, Dave, they don't want you to talk.
Welcome, Dave.
How did
Great. How you doing today? What's going on? Okay.
How did it get so bad? I mean, when did things all go to preservatives and poison? Even the fast food industry has changed their oils and grossed out the meat that they don't, I don't know. When did it get bad? What happened?
Oh, Sarah, I'm going to be a contrarian here. I'm not sure the food is so bad. Like, anything humans touch, we have the capacity to make it dangerous, but we also have the capacity to make it safe and beneficial. Let's, put your way back hat on. For example, 160 years ago, people were getting deathly ill from raw milk that had pathogens like Salmonella, E. coli, Listeria, and a thing called Campylobacter that caused food poisoning. Well, coincidentally, 160 years ago, Louis Pasteur figured out that if you take raw milk, heat it to 161 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 seconds, and then bring it back to a temperature around 39 degrees, that it kills most, if not all, of the pathogens resulting in food poisoning from milk and milk products.
Okay, so let me ask you this. What about breast milk? That's pasteurized. And those are toxins, and, everything that a mother takes in is going right back out. So
and you find that there is a greater incidence of not food poisoning necessarily, but Salmonella and Listeria particularly. And what you do in order to prevent that is make sure your cows, goats are pathogen free, and you can keep them as clean as you possibly can. Some preservatives, are bad for humans, but not all are in appropriate amounts, and that's the point. Trans fats are supposedly banned in the U.S. because they have a link to heart disease. But butylated hydroxyanisole, or BHS, besides being kind of hard to say, has mixed reviews. Some say it's linked to cancer, but it's also used in butter, cereal, cookies, and meat to prevent the food from becoming rancid. That's a good thing. The bottom line for me is that all things in moderation, well, except for arsenic and strychnine, which I try to stay away from.
That is your take on all this? Oh, Dave. We're going to
give me a Big Mac. We'd have to have a Tibibius and Arby's classic any day.
And I'm drinking raw milk. So just so you know, I've never, I don't want Pasteur to kill all my good bacteria.
Yeah, well,
how about the microbiome?
Stay close to the commode, Clark.
I've been drinking raw cream for a long time in my coffee. A lot of people feed their kids straight out of the goat milk. If as long as you know what the goat or the cow is eating and how they're cared for, there is nothing wrong with raw. Graham, just jump in here and let's change the direction. Can Republicans get on board with a Kennedy in the hen house?
Yes, I think they can, and I think they will. And as I wrote about recently in the pages of libertynation.com. I believe they will, because when he was running for president, he built what I described as a big tent team. He brought in people that were kind of surprising, even caught some of his supporters by surprise, although I think they kind of warmed to it very quickly. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was one of those individuals. He was maybe the pivotal figure in Trump's kind of outreach beyond the, if you like, the MAGA world, the what we've come to know as the MAGA world. And I think for Republicans to for Republicans to allow the confirmation of Kennedy to be sabotaged or to sink, I think would be such a slap in the face to everything Trump is trying to do this time around. And I don't think they'll do it. So I think even those few Republicans who have misgivings about Kennedy because, he's skeptical of certain vaccines. And I believe my personal opinion is rightfully so. And also, he's not zealously anti-abortion either. He's not particularly pro-abortion, but he's not in favor of, kind of blanket bans on abortion access. And I believe that gives a few kind of conservative Republicans a bit of a shock. But I believe that I guess bottom line is I would actually be surprised if even a single Republican refused to vote to confirm Kennedy.
Well, that's good to know. I like the team. I like the blending of different people, and I don't know. I think that was a good answer too. A Healthy America seems to be the most bipartisan effort in 2 decades. Now let's see if everyone can agree on how to get it all done. Thanks for tuning in, and stay healthy, everybody. We are back to have a little fun with the panel before we go nuts at Christmas. Andrew Moran, our economic comic, has a special show planned for all of you today that will keep you warm and fuzzy and dive into the funnest season ever. Take it, Andrew.
Hello, as Sarah Cowgill said, I am Andrew Moran, your usual host for C5 Trivia. But today I actually have a special guest for all you lovely people. So I'm going to bow out and wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And our guest will be here shortly.
Why do I allow him to just go free reign? Why? He just does his own.
Reserve credit. No,
I had a special idea. I'm like, all right, roll with it.
Ho, ho. Hello, everyone.
Dude, your hat fell off.
I am Santa Claus. Oh, my hat just fell. Oh, I'm just too nervous for C5 today. Oh, I'm too nervous. But thank you. Yes, I am Santa Claus. And
Way to practice this before the show.
Yes, so before I'll be, oh my goodness, oh no, sorry, no, yes.
I'm melting.
I will be hosting C5 Trivia, but before we get started, I just want to go through my naughty and nice list and give you a heads up before Christmas morning. Sorry, one of my elves just came here. He's in the basement and he needed some air. So first, my nice list, ho, ho, ho. Sarah Cowgill, of course, at the top of the nice list.
Seriously?
Andrew tells me how wonderful and breathtaking Sarah is all the time hosting the show. Ho, ho, ho. Mrs. Claus may need to file divorce papers now. Ho, 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 ho.
Ooh, baby. You
Graham
get on that sleigh of yours and you just stay in Indiana. There you go.
Graham is also on my nice list because, according to Andrew, he follows the trivia rules. Ho, 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 ho. Now on my naughty list, Dave Patterson, I had to add you to this one because my elves informed me you were planning a coup at the North Pole. Ho, 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 I don't appreciate that. And finally, John Clark, Sorry, Mr. Clark. I've seen your past appearances. I don't like red ties or loud shirts. Oh, but you made the naughty list. So now on to the show. Let's get started here with some delightful questions from one of my elves, Kristen Brooker. Question number one.
Hey, by the way, it's Kirsten.
Kirsten, excuse me.
Why don't you get that, Santa?
I need my
You've been delivering
glasses.
presents forever.
I need my glasses. Sorry. So anyway, question one. Let's see if I can read this. To sit in the White House briefing room, news media companies and journalists must first apply to be accepted by A, the American Society of Journalists and Authors, B, the Associated Press, or C, the White House Correspondents Association. C is the right answer, and I don't know who that is, but there's an elf still here in my C5 trivia lounge. Ho, ho, ho. Question two. Oh no, my hat just fell off again. I am sorry. In a November 22nd report, the Congressional Research Service called the Russian nuclear challenge a worrisome possibility, B, acute threat, or C, unlikely hazard.
B, acute threat.
C.
I don't know who answered that. Oh, Sarah answered that. Oh, good job, Sarah. You got that one.
I see how this is going.
Yeah, it's gonna go that way a while. You gotta stop being the monkey wrench.
What toy?
All right, next question. What area of study is steadily making a much-needed comeback in higher education? Economics. Oh, where is my friend Andrew? He loves economics. Anyway, is it A, economics, B, geography, or C, civics?
Civics.
Graham, you got that. Good work, my man. You are still on the nice list. Question 4. Sean McGuire, a partner at Sequoia Capital and a landlord, claimed that he was shorted rent to the tune of $300,000 by Hunter Biden, Ashley Biden, or Joe Biden.
Hunter
Biden.
Yes, unfortunately,
I
Dave
got
got
that.
that correct. Actually, no, yeah, you're right. Sarah did get that. Good job. Question 5.
Sorry, got it. I got it.
Excuse me. Oh, I have such a cold. I've been working nonstop at the North Pole and dealing with drones. We have drone problems here too. Did anyone hear about that? No? Okay, so anyway, question 5. What two major news networks have faced plummeting viewership since the election, yet still relentlessly paint Trump as a monster? Was it Axios and BBC, CNN and NBC, or The Hill and Reuters?
B.
Excuse me. Did anyone answer that?
B.
Who did?
Hello?
They've got it. They've got it. CNN and NBC.
Okay, question 6. Marine veteran Daniel Penny was recently found not guilty of criminally negligent homicide in the death of Jordan Neely on a subway train in what U.S. state? New York, Washington, or California?
Hey, New York.
New York.
New York. I love this town. Ho, ho, ho. I love singing at Christmas time. I don't know who got that, but anyway, New York is the answer to our lovely viewers. Question 7. After sitting idle for nearly his entire term, President Biden decided it was time to act against what terrorist group in Syria? HTS, ISIS, or Al Qaeda?
ISIS.
It's cold outside.
No, it is. Oh, actually, the answer is ISIS.
Hey, Santa, you got an elf that needs to go back to the basement. Didn't you feed him today?
No, I don't. I have slave labor.
It's so cold.
All right, next question here. What government watchdog group provided a report that highlighted the lengths the Biden administration went to control the news, the information, and opinions people were permitted to hear? Truth be told, Crystal Clear, or Open the Books?
Open the books.
Open the Books is the correct answer. Speaking of books, is anyone going to read The Night Before Christmas?
Oh, wait.
Is anyone reading that?
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
No.
Well, Dave got to answer that question. Question 9. What act recently passed by the House would require schools to teach students the dangers of communism? Is it the Crucial Communism Teaching Act, the McCarthy Act, or the Terrors of Communism Act?
A.
Yes, correct, John. A, the Crucial Communism Teaching Act. And I can't believe it. We are already at our final question of C5 trivia. Maybe I can come up with 10 more questions. What do you think, Sarah? No? Okay, fine. Last question here. Javier Milei, ho, ho, ho. He's getting a big gift from Santa Claus this year. If anyone knows, that's a heads up. That's breaking news if anyone wants to report it. So Javier Milei is the president of Colombia, Angola, or Argentina?
Argentina.
Yes, the answer is Argentina.
Geez, Santa,
correct,
you kind of ramble a little too much. I'm not sure.
Because I'm so excited to be on C5 Trivia. This is my first and perhaps last time ever. I want to take it.
Perhaps.
Anyway, so that's all the questions I have here. I don't have any more, unless you people want to ask me a question.
Well, Santa, I thank you for being here. You kind of made our day.
But
So
nobody
who's
has
getting
questions
coal
for
in their
me?
stocking and who's gonna get a orange?
Well, so have you seen the price of coal? I want to give coal to all the little children in the world. It's so expensive, last I heard.
It's not coal, it's venue.
That would be a
I
good
want a Daisy Red Ryder BB gun.
You'll shoot your eye out.
Oh, I've seen a Christmas story too. How about you, Graham? Do you have a favorite Christmas movie?
I have a
I don't have a favorite Christmas movie, no.
Chevy Chase's Christmas Vacation.
I'm a bit of a Grinch when it comes to the commercialization of Christmas.
Yeah, me too. Anyway, that movie's funny. But hey, we gotta go. So
All right. Thank you, everybody. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Santa.
Merry
Thank you for
Christmas.
showing
Merry
up.
Christmas.
All right. Thanks for playing, guys. And I hope you guys at home had a good time because we were surprised and sure did have a good time with our guest. And we hope we left you with smiles and less confusion for a happy, Merry Christmas and a New Year. We'll see you later. That's it for our Conservative 5 panel today. Check out our other C5 shows and segments on your favorite video platform. YouTube, Vimeo, Rumble, we're on them all. As well, Liberty Nation News has its own Roku channel where you can see all of our TV productions. Now, Liberty Nation does not endorse candidates, campaigns, or legislation, and this presentation is no endorsement. I'm your host, Sarah Cowgill. Thanks for joining us today for the latest news and commentary. Your choice for free thinking, free speech, libertynation.com.